jump from the third floor of his house rather than face the consequences. And Big Bro doesn't exactly get a happy ending either. As he's being taken away by the police, his final moment of humiliation comes from an unexpected enemy. A cockroach that somehow crawls inside his clothes, faced with tears of joy. After everything he did, it looks like even the cockroaches wanted to make sure Big Bro's downfall was complete.
Given his experience as an informant, Kangsu is called in by the police to help interrogate a drug addict. Rather than using force, Kangsu relies on his sharp tongue and street-smart tactics. He eventually convinces the suspect to cooperate by offering him money and a chance at freedom.
돈은 알아서 하시고. 오케이. 이쪽은 매스컴 타고.
With the addict taken care of, Kangsu moves on to an old friend, someone he once helped get out of prison. For now, let's just call him the old buddy. And just like the previous suspect, this guy is also asked to spill the beans about the drug operation, especially the dealers, suppliers, and couriers currently being hunted by the police. Luckily, Kangsu doesn't need to threaten him or pull out any fancy interrogation tricks. A little persuasion is apparently all it takes. In no time, Kangsu walks away with the entire list of important information. And just like that, the police finally have everything they need to make their move. Talk about getting results without even breaking a sweat. With the police struggling to make the arrests, Kangsu decides it's time to get his hands dirty and join the operation himself. And his involvement quickly pays off in less than a week. The police manage to crack the entire drug case, and the story even makes it onto the TV news. Of course, none of this would have happened without the help of one very important man. Who else could it be but Kangsu, the informant who always seems to know exactly where the trouble is hiding?
대한민국 마약판에선 나 같은 놈들을 이렇게 부른다.
3 months after the case was finally wrapped up, Kangsu had become quite close with some of the police higher-ups. At this point, he was even working as a personal driver for one of the local police chiefs. But Kangsu had no idea that these cops could be just as ruthless as the criminals they were chasing. Once his usefulness ran out, so did their loyalty. After enjoying the benefits, they simply threw him away like yesterday's leftovers. And when the police needed someone to take the blame for their own mess, Kangsu suddenly became the perfect scapegoat. The man who once helped them solve their biggest case was now being set up to take the fall for everything. As a result, Kangsu was thrown straight into prison after being framed for a drug offense. Once he arrived, one of the guards gave him 2 very important rules for surviving in this place. Never step on the doorway threshold, and never fart whenever you feel like it. And guess what Kangsu decided to do? Yep, he broke both rules. His cellmates immediately jumped him and gave him a brutal beating. But that was only the beginning. From then on, Kangsu was constantly humiliated, mocked, and bullied by the other prisoners. Surprisingly, he never fought back. He simply endured it all, keeping his head down and patiently waiting for the right moment.
하지만 족같은 인생에도
Luckily, Kangsu's luck was about to change. A prosecutor named Gu, whom we'll simply call Big Bro, was looking for a sharp and reliable informant to help him take down a major drug network. After going through the profiles of several inmates, Big Bro came across Kangsu's record, and something about him immediately caught his attention. He decided Kangsu might be exactly the man he needed and offered him a chance to become his personal informant. The deal was simple: cooperate with him, and Kangsu gets his freedom. But before handing him the keys to freedom, Big Bro wanted to make sure Kangsu was actually as capable as his record suggested. So he put him through a memory test to see just how quickly and accurately Kangsu could listen to, process, and remember information. Basically, before getting out of prison, Kangsu had to prove that his brain was as sharp as his tongue.
신지엽 870507 16879454 790912148774 됐어. 주인회 됐어.
임마 이거 특기생이네요.
After passing the test with flying colors, Big Bro shows Kangsu a board filled with the suspects they need to take down. And as luck would have it, one of those suspects happens to be Kangsu's own cellmate, a drug dealer. If Kangsu wants to uncover information about the bigger operation, he needs to get as close to this guy as possible. And most importantly, keep his ears open and his mouth shut. So Kangsu comes up with a rather painful plan. He deliberately picks a fight with another prisoner who happens to be the dealer's rival. His goal is simple: get the dealer's attention and prove that he's useful enough to join the crew. The plan actually works. The only problem? Kangsu gets beaten up again and again by the other prisoners. Apparently becoming a police informant comes with a few occupational hazards. At the crucial moment, Kangsu asks Big Bro for a little help setting up another inmate, making it look like the guy is smuggling drugs into the prison. After everything Kangsu has gone through, his efforts finally pay off. The dealer starts to trust him and eventually invites Kangsu to sit with the group. Now Kangsu just has one job: keep his ears open and listen to every little piece of information that comes out of their mouths. And he proves to be incredibly good at it. In less than a month, Kangsu manages to collect the names of all the suspects Big Bro has been hunting. Thanks to Kangsu's information, Big Bro's career takes off, and he is promoted to Deputy Chief Prosecutor. As for Kangsu, the deal is finally honored. He is released from prison and becomes one of Big Bro's closest allies. Seeing just how valuable Kangsu could be, Big Bro decides not to let him go. He offers Kangsu a permanent job as his personal informant, and this time, it's not just business. Big Bro genuinely tells Kangsu that he now sees him like a real younger brother. After all the beatings, prison drama, and dangerous undercover work, Kangsu finally gets something he desperately needed: a powerful ally on his side.
야, 이제부터 편하게 형이라고 불러.
3 months later, Big Bro takes Kangsu to a special room reserved for interrogating high-profile suspects. Basically, the VIP section of the police station. Inside, Big Bro finally opens up about his real ambition. He wants to climb the ladder once again and become the chief prosecutor. But he knows that reaching the top won't be easy without someone like Kangsu working behind the scenes. So, with high hopes, Big Bro asks Kangsu to give him his full support and help him achieve his dream of becoming one of the most powerful prosecutors in the country. Kangsu doesn't even hesitate. With a relaxed smile, he simply says, "Don't worry, Big Bro. Whatever you need, I'll take care of it."
아이 참 형님 참. 또 무슨 그런 걱정을.
And apparently Kangsu isn't just good at gathering information, he also knows how to give gifts. He has prepared 2 luxurious gold lighters, one for Big Bro and one for himself. It's his way of showing appreciation for everything Big Bro has done for him. But for now, let's leave Kangsu behind and meet a beautiful actress named Soo-jin, who is suspected of using illegal drugs.
불만 붙여주면은
She is stopped and arrested while on her way somewhere, then taken straight to the police station for questioning. This is where we meet the captain of the anti-drug department. Let's just call him Captain. Unlike Kangsu, Captain has one simple mission: wipe out the drug trade from the roots. The interrogation turns out to be quite a struggle because Soo-jin spends half the time crying her eyes out. Eventually, though, the officers offer her a deal: cooperate and you'll get your freedom. That finally gets her talking. Soo-jin reveals the name of a gang boss who has been supplying her with the illegal drugs. And just like that, the investigation gets its first real lead.
장이라고. 근데 저는
대구 건달이 염태수 경상도 사투리 쓰고.
And here's the gang boss Soo-jin was talking about. He happens to be picking up a new shipment from a female supplier whose drugs are imported directly from Japan. But this boss clearly has a serious attitude problem out of nowhere. He starts beating up one of the supplier's guards and things quickly get out of control. Before long, both sides are ready to throw hands, and a confrontation breaks out. The funny thing is, the female supplier actually has more men on her side and could easily fight back. But she chooses to stay quiet. Why? Because she knows the gang boss has a very powerful and influential person backing him. In other words, she may have the bigger army, but he has the bigger connection. And in this world, sometimes knowing the right person is more useful than having 10 bodyguards. After picking up the shipment from the supplier, the gang boss suddenly gets a phone call warning him that the police are right behind him. And guess who the mysterious caller is? Yep, Kangsu. Kangsu is secretly trying to help the gang boss escape from Captain's pursuit. He tells him to head straight to the train station and wait at a specific entrance. But things don't go exactly as planned. Just when the gang boss thinks he's about to make a clean getaway, Big Bro suddenly shows up and arrests him, taking him in for questioning. Meanwhile, Captain can only stand there in disbelief, watching his target get snatched right out from under his nose by someone else. Captain spent all that time chasing the guy, only for Big Bro to basically say, "Thanks, I'll take it from here."
이것들이 아주 사건을 날로 따먹으려고 씨.
Once they get inside the car, Kangsu and Big Bro immediately start interrogating the gang boss, trying to make him reveal the identity of the powerful person backing him. Since the reward for cooperating is freedom, the gang boss has little choice but to give them the name they're looking for. Meanwhile, on the very same day, Captain, still annoyed after missing his chance to arrest the gang boss, decides to go after the real mastermind behind him. It turns out to be a young, incredibly wealthy man, the son of one of the most successful businessmen in the country. Captain also has Sujin working as his undercover informant. He orders her to infiltrate Lorai Hotel and report anything suspicious she sees. But Captain might already be a step too late. Kangsu and Big Bro have already arrived at the hotel before him. And just to make sure they have some solid evidence, Kangsu puts on a pair of special glasses equipped with a hidden camera ready to record everything that happens during the raid. Because apparently, Kangsu isn't just an informant anymore. He's basically a walking surveillance system.
야,
예, 형님!
준비됐으면 들어가자.
As for the gang boss, he is released exactly as promised. However, Kangsu's behavior during the whole operation clearly goes a little too far, leaving the gangster absolutely furious. Unfortunately for him, there's not much he can do about it right now. He may be angry, but at the moment he just has to swallow his pride and walk away.
검사님, 진우 이벤트가 하고 있습니다.
And here is the rich young man behind the drug-fueled party. Realizing that the police have come for him, he immediately calls his father for help. But before Dad can come riding to the rescue, Big Bro steps in and takes the young man straight to the station for questioning. Not long after that, Captain and his team finally show up. Once again, just a little too late. Unfortunately, there isn't much Captain can do. The prosecutors also have the authority to investigate major cases like this, so Big Bro has every right to take over the investigation. Inside the VIP interrogation room, Big Bro is seen talking with the young man's lawyer. And this is where things get interesting, because it turns out the young man's father isn't just some ordinary businessman. He's actually a presidential candidate running in next year's election. Then comes the offer that changes everything. The presidential candidate promises Big Bro a promotion to become chief prosecutor of the country. And suddenly, Big Bro's investigation develops a very convenient change of direction. Instead of putting the young man behind bars, Big Bro decides to drop all the charges and set him free. Apparently, becoming chief prosecutor is worth a lot more than following the rulebook.
위로 올라가고 싶죠? 이번 인연으로.
After striking a deal with the presidential candidate's son and his lawyer, Big Bro is approached by the gang boss, who is still part of the same operation. The gangster has just one little request. He wants permission to teach Kangsu a lesson for all the trouble and attitude he gave him earlier. And this time, the punishment is absolutely brutal. Kangsu is run over and has his leg crushed. Then the gangsters inject him with an illegal substance designed to make him addicted. But they don't stop there. The gang boss goes even further and burns both of Kangsu's legs, using him as a punching bag for all the anger and humiliation he has been holding on to. Meanwhile, Big Bro completely betrays the people who trusted him. He even reports Captain to the authorities, claiming that Captain has been interfering with the investigation. As a result, Captain is arrested and thrown into prison. 3 months later, this is what Kangsu's life looks like now. He has become a drug addict, locked away in a tiny room hidden behind a nightclub. The only reason he's still alive is because of an old friend, the same guy Kangsu once helped get out of prison. But this is already the second time Kangsu has been betrayed and brought to rock bottom. And this time, he refuses to stay down. Slowly, painfully, Kangsu forces himself to eat again. Then he begins rebuilding his body, training his strength and mental endurance day after day. He's weak, broken, and addicted. But deep down, Kangsu is starting to come back, and judging by everything he's been through, something tells us the people who destroyed him are going to regret leaving him alive.
술 한잔해.
Meanwhile, Captain is finally released after his lawyer manages to get him out on bail. He's obviously thrilled to be back with his wife and child. But when questioned about the case that landed him in prison, Captain chooses to keep his mouth shut. Now, let's move on to Big Bro. He has officially achieved his dream and become the top prosecutor in the country. He even attends a campaign event held by the presidential candidate, the father of the young man he previously helped escape prosecution. But despite having a position that commands respect from everyone around him, Big Bro has somehow ended up becoming the young man's personal errand boy. After all, he only got that prestigious position thanks to the candidate's influence. The young man Cho-hun even loses his temper and yells at Big Bro for being too slow at cleaning up his messes. Basically, the newly appointed chief prosecutor has been reduced to Cho-hun's personal problem solver, taking care of all the little scandals and trouble the spoiled rich kid keeps creating. Meanwhile, Soo-jin, the former actress who has now turned to selling drugs just to survive, gets an unusual customer. The buyer wants her to personally deliver the drugs straight to his hotel room, and judging by how these things usually go, this delivery is about to become far more complicated than she expected.
혈관 좋네.
북한?
북한.
Soo-jin immediately suspects that the whole thing is just a trap. So, before her customer can make any trouble, she quickly shocks him with a stun device and makes a run for the door. But just when she thinks she has escaped the situation, things are about to get even worse. We still don't know why Kangsu went to see Soo-jin. So let's move on to Captain, who is having a meal with some of his fellow officers at a local restaurant. Suddenly, Kangsu shows up and deliberately provokes Captain into chasing him. Things quickly turn physical and the two get into a fight, but Kangsu insists that he isn't there to cause trouble. He explains that, just like Captain, he was also betrayed and used by Big Bro and his entire crew. Then Kangsu makes him an offer, join him and get revenge, and that's how our unlikely team is formed. We now have Kangsu Captain and Soo-jin, three people who were all victims of the same powerful people playing dirty behind the scenes. They have different reasons for wanting revenge. Kangsu was betrayed by Big Bro, the man he trusted. Soo-jin was exploited and mistreated by Ko-hun, the presidential candidate's son. Captain was thrown into prison after the gang boss manipulated the report against him. Now, Kangsu finally reveals his plan. It all starts with the video he secretly recorded using his camera glasses. The footage could become the smoking gun proving that Cho-hun, the presidential candidate's son, was holding a drug-fueled party. There's just one problem. The glasses are no longer in Kangsu's hands. The gang boss took them when Kangsu was being tortured, and his legs were burned. So, step one of their revenge plan is obvious. Get the recording back from the gangster. But instead of charging straight into the gangster's hideout like three action heroes with absolutely no survival instinct, Kangsu and Captain first visit the female supplier. They know she has plenty of reasons to hate the gangster, considering how badly he has treated her. By taking advantage of that hatred, they manage to squeeze out the information they need, and they finally discover where the gangster keeps his drugs. They're hidden inside a truck normally used to transport eels from Japan. The gangster stores the shipments there before distributing them to different locations. With their target finally located, Kangsu and Captain waste no time. They head straight there to make their move. While Kangsu stays behind to retrieve the drugs from the truck, Captain heads straight inside to confront the gangster himself. Of course, the gangster is never alone. He always has his personal bodyguards nearby. So, naturally, things are about to get messy. A brutal fight breaks out between Captain and the guards. After the chaos, the gangster manages to escape, only to stumble upon Kangsu, who is busy trying to steal his stash. The gangster immediately realizes what's going on and catches Kangsu in the act. But fortunately, Kangsu and Captain manage to track him down and capture him. Now, they finally have what they came for. The gangster is forced to hand over the memory card containing the recorded footage. With the video safely in their hands, the final piece of the plan is up to Soo-jin. Her mission is simple: get Cho-hun behind bars. To do that, Soo-jin uses a special bag equipped with a hidden camera and heads to one of Cho-hun's infamous drug-fueled parties, this time being held on a luxury yacht. When she arrives, Soo-jin gets a little nervous as the guards begin checking her bag. Luckily, they don't notice anything suspicious. She passes the security check and is allowed onto the party.
That's when Soo-jin quietly puts her plan into action and begins recording Cho-hun and everything happening around him. At the same time, Captain takes the captured gangster back to the police station and locks him up. But there's just one problem. One of Captain's own men has already betrayed them. The officer is secretly working with Big Bro, meaning the entire revenge plan is exposed. And just like that, everything they've been planning is about to fall apart.
잘못 본 거 아니에요?
아니요. 혹시나 해서 좀 찾아봤더니
이강수요?
Big Bro quickly calls Chohun and warns him to shut down the party immediately, because the police are on their way to raid the place. Luckily, Sujin has already managed to secure the evidence they need, so now she just has to get out of there as quickly as possible. Once Sujin makes it into the car with the old friend, Kangsu and Captain finally breathe a sigh of relief. Their plan has worked. All they have to do now is wait for the footage to be released to the public. Everything seems to be going perfectly. But then something unexpected happens.
그만하면 나도.
여보세요? 여보세요?
Yes, Sujin and the old friend are burned alive inside the car after someone working for Big Bro deliberately crashes into them. It turns out Big Bro and Chohun have already discovered Kangsu's entire revenge plan. And just like that, the carefully prepared operation appears to be completely ruined. With Sujin and the old friend dead, Captain starts having second thoughts about continuing the revenge mission. But he isn't worried about his own safety. He's worried about his wife and child back home, who could easily become the next targets and suffer the same fate as Sujin. After all, Big Bro and Chohun aren't ordinary enemies. They have money, power, influence, and connections everywhere. Worse yet, they've managed to stay above the law for years without anyone being able to touch them. Captain begins to realize that the two of them might simply not have enough power to take on people like Chohun and Big Bro. But Kangsu refuses to give up. After everything he's been through, he remains confident that the two of them can still win. Kangsu has learned something important from hitting rock bottom. Success isn't always determined by how much money you have, how strong you are, or how many powerful friends stand behind you. Sometimes when the whole world seems to turn against you, there's still one higher power you can rely on. To Kangsu, nothing is impossible as long as he keeps his faith in God, the one who is ultimately more powerful than anyone on earth. Meanwhile, Chohun is furious with Big Bro, accusing him of being completely useless at cleaning up the mess. But Big Bro has finally had enough. He snaps back, telling Chohun that he's nothing but a spoiled little kid who keeps causing trouble at the worst possible time. Things are clearly falling apart between the two of them. Not long afterward, Big Bro receives a message containing video evidence of his crimes, followed by a phone call from Kangsu asking him to meet at a certain location. When they meet, the two exchange fake pleasantries, asking how the other is doing. But it doesn't take long before the friendly conversation turns into a serious exchange of threats. The following day, Big Bro immediately orders a search of Kangsu's apartment, hoping to find the video. But there's just one problem. The evidence is nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Kangsu visits the female supplier and asks her for one final favor. He needs a boat to help him escape Korea once he finishes destroying Big Bro's career. After making the request, Kangsu heads straight to Captain's car to continue with the next stage of their plan.
돈 준비할까요?
After thinking it over for a moment, the female supplier decides to side with Big Bro instead. She immediately reports Kangsu's next move. He plans to hand the video evidence over to a presidential candidate running against Chohun's father. Big Bro wastes no time. He quickly orders his men to rush to the location and stop Kangsu. Meanwhile, Kangsu and Captain arrive at the campaign event of the rival presidential candidate, ready to hand over the evidence. Before Captain leaves, Kangsu warns him to be careful and hands him a flash drive containing the video. But unfortunately, Captain doesn't even make it far. Big Bro's men intercept him and drag him away before he can deliver the evidence. Then, right in the middle of the presidential debate, news breaks that Chohun, the son of one of the presidential candidates, is allegedly involved in a drug-fueled party. The scandal spreads like wildfire. With the situation getting out of control, Big Bro has no choice but to tell Chohun to turn himself in to the prosecution office. While waiting for Chohun to arrive, Big Bro interrogates Captain, desperately trying to find out where Kangsu is hiding. He already knows Kangsu must have another copy of the incriminating video. And Big Bro knows exactly how to make Captain talk. He deliberately brings Captain's wife and child into the office, putting his family right in front of him as a warning. With his family's safety on the line, Captain finally agrees to reveal Kangsu's location. But before he talks, he makes one final request. A cigarette. And the lighter Kangsu once gave him as a gift. After getting Kangsu's location, Big Bro immediately orders the gangster and his men to head there and eliminate Kangsu. Meanwhile, Cho-hun finally arrives at the prosecution office for questioning. He's clearly annoyed when they tell him he needs to take a urine test. But his expression quickly changes when one of Big Bro's men hands him a bag containing someone else's clean urine. No drugs, no evidence. Just the perfect little shortcut for a very spoiled rich kid, faced with tears of joy.
스릴 있네.
Inside the VIP room, Cho-hun acts like a little kid who just got his favorite toy back, celebrating because Big Bro has once again saved him from trouble. While enjoying a cigarette that Big Bro personally lights for him, Cho-hun is told that the urine sample is guaranteed to be clean. So he can finally relax and stop worrying about his father's presidential campaign and the ongoing debate. Not long after, several senior officials and wealthy businessmen who have been backing Cho-hun's father's presidential campaign arrive. They immediately start partying and enjoying a fancy meal while casually discussing corruption, bribery, and all the shady business they've been involved in. And as if that wasn't ridiculous enough, they're watching the presidential debate at the same time, one that has apparently been carefully rigged to make sure Cho-hun's father comes out on top. Meanwhile, the gangster and his bodyguards finally arrive at Kangsu's location. But guess what? They're not the ones waiting for Kangsu. Instead, the female supplier and her men are already there. Apparently, she has been holding a serious grudge against the gangster for a long time. And without wasting a second, she and her men take down both the gangster and his bodyguard. But at that exact moment, something happens that shocks absolutely everyone. Big Bro, Cho-hun, the senior officials, and even Cho-hun's father, who is still sitting at the presidential debate, are all stunned by the breaking news. A live YouTube broadcast suddenly appears, showing footage of Big Bro and his entire crew. And here's the crazy part. Kangsu is actually behind the whole thing. He's hiding across the street from the building, secretly recording everything happening inside. Not only can viewers see what's going on, but they can also hear every conversation loud and clear. Eventually, the curtains are closed, blocking the camera's view. But the live stream doesn't stop. The screen goes dark. Yet everyone's voices can still be heard perfectly. And now comes the question. Where the hell did Kangsu hide the microphone, faced with tears of joy?
소리가 들리고 있습니다. 누군가는 분명히 아직 방에 남아 있습니다.
And here's the big reveal. The microphone was actually hidden inside the lighter that Big Bro always carried. The lighter had secretly been switched when Captain asked him for a cigarette earlier. So basically, the entire thing had been planned from the very beginning, including the female supplier, who was secretly part of Kangsu's plan all along. And with the evidence now broadcast to the entire country, Big Bro's career as the nation's chief prosecutor is officially over. But Big Bro refuses to accept defeat. He immediately rushes toward the building where Kangsu is hiding, thinking he can easily take him down. What he forgot, however, is that Kangsu is now younger, stronger, and much more experienced than the man he used to be. So the tables have finally turned. As for Cho-hun's father, he loses the presidential election. But even after losing, he confidently claims that he still won the hearts of the people, faced with tears of joy. Cho-hun, on the other hand, doesn't handle the defeat nearly as well. He falls into depression and starts consuming large amounts of illegal drugs. When Captain finally comes to arrest him, Cho-hun chooses to jump from the third floor of his house rather than face the consequences. And Big Bro doesn't exactly get a happy ending either. As he's being taken away by the police, his final moment of humiliation comes from an unexpected enemy. A cockroach that somehow crawls inside his clothes, faced with tears of joy. After everything he did, it looks like even the cockroaches wanted to make sure Big Bro's downfall was complete. This movie is more than just a story about revenge, corruption, and powerful people abusing their positions. At its core, it shows what can happen when people become so obsessed with money, status, and connections that they start believing they're untouchable. Kangsu loses almost everything: his freedom, his health, his friends, and even people who trusted him. Yet the most important thing he refuses to lose is his will to fight back. The movie also gives us an interesting reminder. Power can make people feel invincible, but it doesn't make them immune to consequences. Big Bro and Chohun have money, influence, and powerful connections, but eventually their own arrogance becomes their biggest weakness. And that's probably one of the funniest lessons we can take from the story. In everyday life, we may not have corrupt prosecutors, presidential campaigns, or drug empires chasing us around. But we all know people who think they're always right simply because they have a higher position, more money, or more influence. Sometimes they act like they're the main character in a movie. Until reality gives them a plot twist, faced with tears of joy. The movie also reminds us not to underestimate someone just because they've fallen down. Kangsu starts as a powerful informant, loses everything, and ends up at his lowest point. But instead of staying there, he rebuilds himself. That's something we can apply to real life. Maybe you fail at work, maybe someone betrays you, maybe a plan you've worked on for months completely falls apart. Sometimes, life can make you feel like you've just been thrown into the trash. But being knocked down isn't the same as being finished. The most important part is what you do afterward. And there's another funny lesson here. Never underestimate the smallest details. Who would have thought a simple lighter could eventually expose an entire corrupt network, faced with tears of joy? In real life, the smallest decisions can sometimes create the biggest consequences. So if there's one thing we can take away from Kangsu's story, it's this. Money can buy influence. Power can open doors. Connections can protect you for a while, but none of them can guarantee that you will escape the consequences of your actions forever. And sometimes, when everything seems to be going against you, the best thing you can do is simply stay patient, rebuild yourself, and keep moving forward. Because life doesn't always reward the strongest person. Sometimes, it rewards the person who refuses to give up.